afternoon, everybody. My name is Chantal Monster van Eck, and I'm a psychologist. And today we're going to talk about becoming more assertive. I work with Shoco Wellness and as well with Respaldo. I've worked with different kind of disorders, but today my focus will be on communication and assertiveness. So I want to start with a video, showing you a video, and pay attention to the communication styles of, in this case, SpongeBob and Plankton. What sticks with you, what is different or got your attention, I will ask you after the video. So let's watch it together.
SpongeBob?
Yeah.
SpongeBob? SpongeBob!
Yeah?
Isn't it great to get the things you desire? Like that ice cream cone, for instance. You can have anything you want with a little training.
Training?
Yes, you just have to learn to be more assertive. And I can show you how.
Assertive, huh?
That's right.
Anything I want? Sounds great!
Wonderful. SpongeBob, don't let that guy sit on you. Assertiveness lesson number 1. Tell him to get off.
Excuse me, sir. You're sitting on my body, which is also my face.
No, be assertive.
Beep, beep.
Not insertive. SpongeBob, you missed your chance. You've got to be aggressive to get the things you want. You're too soft.
But I'm a sponge.
Don't say it! There's the guy who took your ice cream. Don't you want it back?
Ice cream!
Listen, you. My friend's got something to say.
What? Who said that? Was it you?
Tell him off, SpongeBob. Assert yourself.
That's my ice cream cone.
Great! Now let him have it!
You can have it.
Say thanks!
No! I'll show you how. Hey, pencil neck. Yeah, you. Slither over here. Surrender that ice cream cone, or every waking moment for you will become a swirling torrent of pain and misery.
Okay. So what stand out for you guys on the communication styles of SpongeBob and Plankton? Does anyone have
I would say that
anything?
the SpongeBob was too friendly. He didn't say what he really meant. That's what I noticed.
Yeah, it's a really good analysis. He didn't really say what he meant. Yeah. Anything else? I see someone said something in the. Yeah. So assertiveness was aggressiveness according to the teacher. So Plankton, but it's not correct. That's also a good analysis. Okay, and I'll go to the next slide. And I want to ask you guys to think about what assertiveness is. But let's watch another video that will explain what assertiveness is in a, I think, quite a clear way.
Hello, welcome to this episode of Learning Adventures. Today, we will look at what is assertiveness. Imagine the following scenario. Your coworker comes over to your desk and asks you to look through a huge pile of documents by the end of the day. You have 3 options. Number 1, look at all the other piles surrounding your desk and in contempt say, "Sure, I'll look at them," while thinking to yourself, how am I going to finish all of this on time? I will have to skip lunch and dinner today. Number 2. Throw the pile in his face followed by, are you crazy? Don't you see all the work that I'm surrounded by? Go find someone else to do your job. And go about your business. Number 3. Tell him, I have tons of work at the moment and I'm not sure I'll be able to finish all of this on time. Perhaps you can help me with some of this. While there are certain advantages to all 3 options, chances are the first 2 won't get you far. In the third scenario, you exhibited assertive behavior. So, what is assertiveness? Assertiveness is mainly a communication technique which allows us to build appropriate relationships by considering our rights and respecting those of other people. In contrast, passive or submissive behavior is where you would neglect your rights to please someone else. And aggressive behavior is where you would defend your rights and completely neglect those of other people. But wait, what do we mean by rights? Well, these are the rights to express your feelings, make a request, to fail, to be listened to, and to be you, among many others. And vice versa. Other people have similar rights as well. So assertiveness is really about respecting these rights in you and those around you.
So I think the video showed what assertiveness is, but it also talked about passive and aggressive behavior. So passive behavior is not looking at your own rights nor your own needs. And it actually shows that you're out of contact with yourself and out of contact with the other person. It's pleasing and it reduces your own self-esteem because you don't have eye for what you need or what your feelings are. And a lot of times you express passive behavior when you're not able to say no and say yes to please the other person or because you believe it's expected of you, and it leads to no action. And what I mean by that is that because even though you're doing what the other person asked of you, you're not showing any action to express yourself nor express your needs. And so it's very passive. And the other person will think that you're okay with saying yes. Where on the other hand, aggressive behavior is also out of contact, but only you're only considering your own needs and wanting to get what you want. It can be active aggressive, so with behavior, but it can also only be in your face or the way you're speaking, talking to the other person. It can be quite demanding, and it's saying no or yes in an unpleasant manner, because it's not only saying no in an unpleasant manner, but it can also be saying yes to certain things in an unpleasant manner. And it reduces other self-esteem, or it makes others feel unsafe. Somebody asked what is passive aggressive, so in the next slides I will get back on that and tell something about that. For now and for later in the presentation, these 3 are the ones I want to focus on most, but I will talk about what passive aggressive is in a moment. So aggressive behavior can be vocal, but also unvocal. So it can be in your speech, in the way you talk, in what you do with your hands or your body, but it can also be in your face. It's very clear that somebody didn't like what you asked or what you said, and they're very clear about that, not considering your boundaries and not considering your needs. So assertiveness is expressive, but in a friendly manner. It's in context, so you're in contact with yourself and the other person, and it takes in account your needs and the needs of someone else. Um, it increases your own self-esteem. And why does it do that? It's because you give attention to your own boundaries and you respect your own boundaries, and that increases your own self-worth. You're able to say no and you're able to say yes in the right way, but also in the right time. And it's action. So you take action in saying no, but you also take action in saying yes. So these are the three things that, three ways of expressing um, what you want or not expressing what you want. And then we have this other one, which is passive aggressive. And passive aggressive, I think, is the most difficult one, but maybe also a very common one. And sometimes it's not even aggressive in a way that you think, "Wow, that hurt." But it's aggressive because someone is not expressing their feelings and needs in communication, but maybe in action they do, or in their face they do. So it's emotionally dishonest. You're saying yes to something you actually didn't want to say yes to, or you're doing something you actually didn't want to do. It's very indirect. So maybe in your face, someone is very nice, but behind your back, they go and complain about something you asked or something you did. Um, or you can see them saying yes, and afterwards you see in their face that they actually didn't really like the situation. Or they might ignore you for a couple of days. It's also very passive aggressive. Or maybe you'll recognize the person that blocks you on WhatsApp after a conversation you had. That's also very passive aggressive. And it's self-denying at first. So that means that someone says yes anyway, even though they don't want to. But it's self-enhancing at the expense of others later. And what I mean with that is that at first they say yes, but then afterwards you feel like, oh, this person didn't want to do it, but that wasn't really clear. Or why is this person mad at me? I didn't know that I did anything wrong, but now they're not talking to me, or they're short, or they're, I don't know, maybe not as nice as they used to be. So that's what we mean by passive aggressive behavior. It's very underneath the surface. So sometimes it's even hard to pinpoint that someone is being passive aggressive, or maybe even hard to recognize that you yourself are being passive aggressive. Um, but because it's so hard to pinpoint, it's also hard to communicate about it, and that's why it can hurt so much or feel so uncomfortable. Reasons why people show passive aggressiveness is one of the things can be upbringing. So maybe a lot of us can recognize that in our culture here as well. Sometimes it's hard to express your emotions because you're not allowed to, or you felt like you're not allowed to when someone older than you asks you something, or your mom or dad or your grandmother or your grandfather asks you something. You're supposed to say yes. You're not supposed to say no, or you're not supposed to have feelings about it. So not being able to express your emotions can lead to passive aggressive behavior, because those emotions are there, but you cannot express them. You cannot let them out. And emotions always want to get out in some kind of way, form. And so instead of saying it directly because you're afraid of what will come, or afraid that someone will have an opinion about it, you don't say it, but you do express it in a way that is a bit, how do you say that? Underneath the surface. So it's you hide the feeling, but not completely. So it's a way to channel those feelings of anger and frustration. Sometimes it's because of the situational characteristic. So maybe you recognize that it's easier to be assertive with family members and not necessarily at work or at school, or the other way around. Maybe it's more easy for you to express your feelings in school and not in a family setting. So sometimes it's a situational thing. So you could find yourself saying, "Hey, I'm assertive when it comes to work and school, but I'm not as assertive when it comes to family." And you can say as well about passive aggressiveness. So I recognize that in my family system, I'm maybe more passive aggressive because I don't feel like I can express myself. Um, it's taking the easy road. Being assertive and emotionally open is not always easy, and it asks vulnerability. And I think a lot of us are not really used to showing our vulnerability, or maybe have find it hard to be vulnerable. So passive aggressiveness can be the easy way out. And it's when standing up for yourself is not, it doesn't come easy, or it doesn't come, it doesn't come easy. So you say, yeah, instead of doing that, I'll keep expressing myself in an unpleasant way in the hopes maybe someone will notice and talk to me. So that a bit about passive aggressiveness. It's important to recognize your own behavior, or when you are being passive aggressive, so you can improve yourself. And sometimes it's very, like I said, it's underneath the surface, so it's not as clear. So maybe you recognize that you find yourself sulking when you're unhappy with someone else, or avoid people whom you are upset with. This instead of talking to them and talking about, hey, this or that I didn't really like, or this conversation was very hard for me, or you did something that really hurt me, you choose to not talk to them till the feeling goes away, and then maybe you act like nothing ever happened. It's also very passive aggressive. Um, uh, so maybe also doing things to punish others. Not talking to them can be one, but also maybe, for example, you are someone that always brought your friend a coffee and Monday morning, and something happened, and you're upset with that friend, and you decide, okay, I'm not going to talk to them about what happened, but I'm not going to bring him or her that coffee anymore. That's also a very passive aggressive way to address the matter. And sarcasm can also be a way to avoid engaging in meaningful conversations, but let the other person know in a passive way that you're angry or upset. So how to improve your own behavior? I think this is in general, not only with passive aggressiveness or passiveness or aggressiveness, but in general, is to improve your self-awareness. So take a minute and recognize what you're feeling. Think about how to express that, how to start the conversation, and also recognize, hey, maybe I find it very hard to talk about this, or to say that I didn't like something, or to say no. Maybe I'm scared of something. So improve your self-awareness and start paying attention to what is going on as you react to other people in the situation. So evaluate yourself afterwards. Um, I, and maybe that can begin with a feeling of uncomfortableness. So maybe you recognize, hey, I was very uncomfortable in that situation. And then take the time and look back. Okay, why was I this uncomfortable? What did I like about my own communication style? What did what uh, what didn't I like about my own conversation style? What did I like about the conversation style, the communication style of the other person, and what didn't I like about them, their communication style? And how would I would like to change it? What would be a more comfortable way of interacting with each other? Give yourself time to make changes. Um, a lot of things are patterns, and as well as our communication style are choosing to be passive, aggressive, or assertive. Um, and these patterns, a lot of the times, are hard to break. So give yourself some time and take the time to practice. Um, and that's also the last one, practice expressing yourself. So how can I communicate what I feel? And I'll come back to that later as well, by giving us some examples of how to communicate a bit more in an assertive way, um, uh, and in being kind to yourself and kind to the other person. Um, and it's on paper, a lot of times it seems easy to say, um, that didn't feel really comfortable, or um, that hurt me. Um, but in reality, a lot of the times it's hard to say that hurt me, or you hurt me, or what you said hurt me. Um, so practice, a lot of practice. Um, and then in time, you will get better at it. So getting back to assertiveness, like I said, assertiveness is very easy to explain what it is, yet a lot of us find it hard to be assertive. And that's because assertiveness takes courage. It takes courage to be ourselves and to show the world our likes and dislikes, our thoughts, feelings, and shortcomings. Um, and why is that sometimes so hard? I think it begins with, we need to know what our likes and dislikes are. We need to know what we think. We need to have an opinion. We need to be self-aware of our feelings, and our own shortcomings. Um, so assertiveness takes courage because it takes vulnerability, but it also takes knowledge about ourselves, who we are, what we want, what we like. And that's where it begins. So I find a lot of people that I talk to, or clients of me, that when I ask them, who are you? Who's this person sitting in front of me? They find it very hard to answer that question. And a lot of the times I say that, well, I think it's logical that assertiveness is something that you find very hard, because a lot of the times maybe you don't feel what you need, or you don't know what you need. And if you don't know, it's hard to express. Um, so that's why assertiveness isn't it as easy as it may seem. And expressing also can be in words, it can be in other ways, but I think foremost is communicating, and it's communicating honestly with friends, family, and colleagues. So it's not only communicating your needs and wants, but it's also communicating um, emotions. And I think that's a lot of the times the part that we find very hard, to say, hey, I feel sad, or I feel anxious, or I feel angry. But that's where the connection can be made. So becoming more assertive actually means becoming more of who we are, becoming more ourselves, and showing others our true selves. Um, and therefore, that's why you need to know who you are and find out who you are, what you like, don't like. And that's where it begins if you want to become more assertive. So self-reflection, like I said, that's the first step. How do you become more self-aware? I think it begins with these questions, asking yourself these questions. So how do I actually feel about this? And take the time to feel. See your body, how does my body react to the decision I made or the situation I'm in? How do I feel? And the next step is, what do I want? Do I want this? Do I want something else? What do I want? What are my abilities? What can I do? Because I think a lot of the times we say yes to things that we maybe are not even able to do, but we say yes in order to not disappoint someone else, and that brings a lot of stress. So it's important to see, okay, what are my qualities? What are my abilities? What can I do? Do I need to help? I think that's a really good question in a lot of situations as well. Do I really need to help? Or is there space to say no? What are my responsibilities? What are the things I am responsible for? And so maybe I need to say yes, even though I don't want to. Or are there things that I take on as a responsibility that is not my responsibility? And so that has all to do with boundaries as well. Where are my boundaries and where does the garden of the other person begin? So taking it all into one picture, you see that assertiveness is in the center of your needs and the needs of others. That means that you respect your own needs, you also respect the needs of others, and respecting doesn't mean that you comply to anything the other asks of you. Respecting means seeing the need of the other person, but also realizing, for example, that you're not able to help or that you don't have the time to help. And respecting means that, for example, when you don't have the time to really help the other in a way that the other deserves, you express that instead of doing it anyway, and actually not giving the person what they would have deserved or needed. So it's important to keep that in mind, that it's respecting the other needs, and respecting doesn't mean that you have to say yes. It's also respecting your own needs, because if you don't have the time, that you respect your own boundaries in that and express your own boundaries. And instead of trying to make time and trying to search for energy you actually don't have, saying no, I'm not able to do this. That's assertiveness. So like I said, it asks you to dare to stand up for yourself, have and express your opinion, express your feelings, being able to say no, take initiative, and that also will bring you something. It doesn't only cost you something, but it will bring you something. So when you learn to stand up for yourself, you will see that more people will respect your boundaries, and you will learn to respect your own boundaries. When you are able to express your own opinion, your self-esteem will grow, as well as when you're respecting your own boundaries, your self-esteem will grow. And that's because you will give yourself the attention you deserve. And actually, indirectly, you say to yourself, I am worth it to set my own boundaries. I am worth it to say no. I am worth it to listen to my own feelings. I am worth it to express my opinion, to say what I think. So all that shows yourself that you're worth a lot more, maybe that you thought. And that's what makes your self-esteem grow unconsciously. Um, Also, when you express your feelings or say, hey, I really would like to help you, but my schedule doesn't let me help you this week, others will get the opportunity to take your needs into account. So when I express that, the other will be able to say, hey, okay, I understand. I hear you say that you're very busy. Um, you know what? I will try and find another solution. So what you do with that is giving others also the space to respect your boundaries, but also to take your needs into account. And indirectly, that as well will make your self-esteem grow, but it also will make you feel more connected to others. I think maybe a few of you, or I, for that matter, recognize that a lot of times we keep on saying yes, even though we don't have the time nor space to do all those things for others. We get to a point that we feel like nobody is thinking about me, nobody is helping me, nobody knows how hard it is, and get into that space of self-pity. But a lot of the time, that is because we didn't express our feelings and we didn't give the opportunity to other people to take our needs into account. When you're able to say no and respect your own boundaries, you will find yourself having more energy and being able to focus better on your own goals. And maybe one of those goals is to help, or being able to help others. So a lot of the times I also tell my clients that being able to say no is not only about you. Again, assertiveness is not only about your own needs, it's also about the needs of others. So if you respect your own boundaries, and you're able to say no, you will have more energy, and that energy you can give back if you want to. And take initiative is, it will give you more control over your life. It will give you a clearer path and focus on the things that you find important, that fit you as a person, instead of distracting you with all the needs and things of other people. So a few tips on assertive communication. Make sure you get the other person's full attention when you're communicating with them. Make eye contact. So be in contact with the other person. Keep your head up, your shoulders back, feel grounded. Use a calm voice and use a respectful and clear language, and keep it as short as possible. So do not try to go around it. Really try to be clear and short in what you're trying to get across. So let's look at a case and keep in mind the three different ways of communicating. So assertive, passive, and aggressive. We'll leave the passive aggressiveness out of it for now. So assertive, passive, and aggressive. So if you imagine yesterday you spent a lot of time working on a homework assignment that needs to be finished today. It was a very hard assignment and it cost a lot of time and effort, but you managed to get the job done and you feel very proud of yourself and your work. You're hoping to get a good grade because you really need it. Just before class, a friend approaches you and ask you if she can copy your work. And she completely forgot to do the assignment, and she says, I promise that I will make some adjustments so the teacher will not see that it's copied. You feel like you don't like the situation because you're afraid the teacher might find out and you really need that grade. So what do you do? Think about that for a minute, and maybe some of you can put it in a chat, and then we can review on your reactions and see where does it fit. Is it passive? Is it assertive? Or is it maybe somewhat aggressive? So if you guys can put an answer in the chat, what you would do in a situation like this, and be honest. So one of you said, yeah, I know what I should do, but I have the courage. I'm maybe aggressive, and then it's a win-lose. And if I don't have the courage, I will just do it and say nothing, and then it's a lose-win. And another said, yeah, I would do it. I would let the friend write the assignment down in the name of friendship, which also is a lose-win, because it's passive and not assertive. So assertiveness would be telling your friend, hey, I'm sorry, I understand that you forgot to do the assignment, and I feel bad for you, and I cannot let you write down mine because I really need this grade. So I hope you'll get another chance to do the assignment again. But today I'm not able to help you. And why is it a win-win? Because a lot of us think, and it feels like a win-lose, but it's a win-win because you connected with the other person, you put down your own boundaries, respected your own boundaries, and therefore respected the boundaries of the other person. Okay, I will go on. Then I have a second case. Imagine you get your test results returned. You notice that one important question worth many points is marked as wrong. You're convinced that your answer is at least partially correct, and you deserve at least some points for your answer. What would you do? So again, you can all put down your answers in the chat. So I see it in the chat that you're all a bit more assertive when it comes to school. Then it's obviously a bit easier to communicate with your teacher and say, hey, I want to see the test, an inzage, talk about it with the teacher, and expressing, hey, I think it should be this way, and I think I'm right. And I also see someone that said, hey, I would go to a teacher and try to back it up with evidence even. So that's when it comes to school, you guys are very assertive. You're doing a good job there. And maybe that's what you can channel in other situations. So with teachers, it's often obviously a bit easier to express your needs and feelings and thoughts, opinion, instead of with friends, or maybe in family settings. That's interesting, right? So I think it's fun to see that in certain situations you are able to be assertive, even though maybe in general you feel passive, or you feel aggressive, or you feel passive aggressive, maybe even. You can see now that in specific situations you can show assertiveness. So good job on that. Aggressive would be telling the teacher, what the hell did you do? I'm so angry with you because you didn't give me the grade I deserve. And going on and on about that. And maybe the teacher will be scared in giving you the grade you deserve. And passive would be letting it just be as it is, not saying anything, and just taking the grade, even though you know you might have deserved a better grade. Okay. Looking at the time, I will leave it at this. I had another case, but I will leave that for now. So if you guys have a question, and I think you all have one, or feedback, I also think all have thought about feedback, then this is the time to put it in the chat